In this video, I'll show you some items that you can pick up in the first 30 minutes of your new Elden Ring DLC playthrough. Of course, there will be some light spoilers. With that out of the way, let's get started.
Miyazaki-san Hitobito wa Garedo Sodo to Katana no Doshira o Shio Shite ka o Kimaru Kodo ga Dekimasen.
Sorera o kumi o waseru. With this new DLC, you don't have to pick between a katana and a greatsword anymore. The great katana can be picked up in the lake just a bit north of the DLC's starting area. You'll find it next to a boss fight that I cannot spoil because it's a reskin of stuff we've seen in the base game. The great katana is upgraded with smithing stones and can be infused with ashes of war. If no other elements are present, the katana can be buffed with incantations and greases. By comparison, the weapon is a bit slower than most other weapons on this list, but it makes up for that in more damage, larger hitboxes and more stance breaking potential. The moveset is also slower than traditional katanas, but they're faster than greatswords, making it a nice bridge between the two of them. Since the weapon is on the heavier side, I like using buffs that increase the poise damage too. The weapon skill is really good too. By default, it's an overhead light attack or 3 consecutive heavy attacks. This weapon feels a bit like playing Sekiro, if the dude from Sekiro was jacked as fuck. Continuing with our next weapon, I'd like to cover the Milady light greatsword. This weapon is lighter than greatswords, but it moves a little quicker too. The poise and overall damage are a bit lower than normal greatswords to compensate. The sword can be found really early on in the DLC. From the DLC starting point, take the path north until you reach Castle Ansis. From there, pass the troll and move up to the left tower. Climb the ladder and Milady will be in the chest above. This weapon can be infused with Ashes of War and it's upgraded with normal smithing stones. External buffs can also be applied. Default Ashes of War is Impaling Thrust, but there are better options out there. Personally, I had the most success by infusing this weapon with blood. This moveset really feels good to play. In a lot of ways, it reminded me of the combat of The Witcher 3, except this time I died a lot. It's worth noting that most of the light attacks will be thrusting forward, and the heavier attacks move in an arc in front of you. Missing an attack can leave you quite vulnerable, and it's harder to break the poise of the enemies with this weapon. Heavily armored enemies tend to be quite resistant to this weapon, but you will cut through weaker enemies without any problems. Because the moveset is quite fast, a good talisman to use is the Rod and Winged Sword talisman. I recommend the Stone Barbed Tear for extra poise damage when needed. Other weapons on this list might do more damage, but this one was just really fun. Because the sword's name is Milady, I like to wear a fedora to really sell the part. The aristocrat hat can be found from the nobles that are walking the road in Limgrave. After acquiring this hat, you are now ready to roleplay Elden Ring as a neckbeard. A human, and of the female equation, no less. Milady, are you perchance single?
No.
Damn it. Something else you can pick up quite early are the Beast Claws. They are dropped by killing Logar the Beast Claw. This is a reference to Spider-Man. He's located a little to the southeast of the starting area. You won't have to find him, because he'll find you. He'll f you up if you get too close. So what I do is spread sickness from a respectable distance. Unfortunately, my arrows are no match for his athleticism, because he's unburdened by pants. After killing Logar, he'll drop the Beast Claw. This weapon can be infused with Ashes of War and external buffs, provided there's not already an element on it. Because of the base scaling, the Beast Claws benefit strength-based characters more, but you can get really far with a different build. The weapon is really fast and it covers a lot of distance, though it does tend to leave you vulnerable. The backstab attack is instrumental in staying safe while using this weapon. The poise damage is not as high as I would have expected, but you do tend to stagger most enemies while simply hitting them. Because you apply a lot of attacks in a short amount of time, the Rod and Winged Sword talisman is once again a good pick. What I like to do with this weapon is add the poison infusion to it. Because of the attack speed, status effects tend to build up quite quickly. Speaking of poisoning our enemies, if you kill the guard at the Church of Consolation, you will drop the Black Steel Greathammer. The Church of Consolation is a little bit to the northeast of the Beastman. Once again, this weapon can be infused with smithing stones. Ashes of War infusion and external buffs are also possible. It hits really hard and does a lot of poise damage, but it's held back by its short range and long recovery time after hitting an attack. The moveset is simple but effective. If you're running a Strength and Faith build, this weapon should be on your list. It benefits greatly from buffs that increase your strength and stance breaking opportunities. With my current stat distribution, I got the most out of this weapon by giving it a quality infusion. This made it that both strength and dexterity scaled at B. I'll be honest, bows in Elden Ring can be quite inconsistent. However, we're still covering one in this video. The bone bow can be found in the Ballarat Tower settlement. It is highly guarded by a spider scorpion, so we're just going to yoink the bow and leave immediately. It's upgraded with normal smithing stones, but cannot be infused with ashes of war. The question is why you would even want to do that, because the weapon skill is sick as fuck. Especially if you use status inflicting arrows. Because it's a bow, there is no scaling from other skills, and naturally it benefits from talismans that increase the power and utility of archery. And that's it for today. Have I missed anything in your opinion? Come chastise me in the comments.